We're going to be harvesting our garlic right now. We're about mid to late July. This is one of our soft neck garlic bulbs that we just pulled out, and we also have some hard neck garlic that we pulled out one over there as well that looks pretty good to go. We're going to be digging around each one of the bulbs with this tool and then kind of gently pulling up, and it should come out looking something like this. And then we'll let these dry and cure for a number of days, and then they'll be ready for storage. Okay, all right, so I'm gonna try to gently loosen the dirt. Our dirt is really hard right now. The weather's been hot, so I'm just kind of using this to loosen the dirt around the garlic bulb, but not trying to puncture it at all. And you don't wanna just yank it out. You wanna leave some of the roots intact. And let's see here. I'm gonna clear away. Our dirt here is kind of like clay. And then I'm gonna go down a little, like an inch away from the bulb. I'm gonna go straight down and kind of see if I can pry it up from the bottom so I get some of those roots in there. Oh, it feels almost ready to come. There we go. All right. Now it's quite stuck, but I'll just gently pull away the dirt that it's stuck to and kind of loosen it up. It's nice and moist, so that's a good sign, and you'll see those roots. I want to leave them intact. And let's see here. We will end up cutting these off after the curing process, but let me show you this one. This is kind of what we want it to look like, so it'll probably get there. These are our hard neck China rose garlic, and they look amazing. The bulbs are really big, really flavorful. I will be saving some of these garlic bulbs to hopefully plant next year, so I don't have to buy any, because these were actually really expensive this year. But I think I'm going to do all hard neck next year. Okay, so we grabbed some of the garlic. We're gonna give a few more days to let the dirt dry out a bit. So we cut the water to that bed, but these ones are really nice. Some are a little bit bigger than others. And what we're letting them do in here, they're sitting on this is just a wood frame with some chicken wire sitting on it. So it allows air to get all around it. We brought it into our garage, but if you don't have a lot of rain, you could certainly do this outside as well. Once these are dried, I think the drying temperature or drying time will just kind of depend on your climate. So once all this dirt is nice and dry and it's a little papery, kind of thin like you would find a bulb like in a grocery store, that's when you might take an old toothbrush and you're just gonna brush the dirt off. You don't wanna wash them or anything. And then at that point you can cut off the roots, and you can also cut the stems. I think some people store them with the stems, but that's what I've heard and done, is just take a toothbrush, brush the dirt off, and then you can store them in a nice, dry, cool place. All right, hi there, welcome back. We are processing garlic today. So we picked our garlic a couple weeks ago and we let it dry in our garage, but some of our pieces of garlic are splitting. So I was reading that this is not the best for storage because actually the paper is already coming off of them. So I've decided I'm going to try to freeze dry these garlic cloves, and I have quite a few of them. So I've got my garlic cloves in here. I've got my Harvest Right trays here. I've already filled up one of my trays with some of our green beans because we have a lot. I froze some in vacuum sealed bags, and then these ones I'm going to freeze dry. So we'll see how that goes. So like most things that grow in the dirt, they're quite dirty. So we tried to clean them off as best we could, but all I'm doing is I'm using my little compost bowl here, because I'll compost all these shavings, And I'm just gonna break off the dirt and the paper on the outside as best I can until I get a whole clove. And then I will set my whole cloves in the tray until I get a number of them. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm going to smash them. If you've ever processed cloves, you're familiar with this. And if you haven't, we'll show you how it's done. So you've got these really nice whole cloves. You take all the paper off of them. These are beautiful whole cloves. These are our hard neck garlic, and they're a China rose hard neck garlic, and they're my favorite. I think this is all I'm going to be growing from now on because they're nice and big. You're not dealing with these tiny little cloves that are a pain to deal with. You know, you've only got 5 or 6 nice big ones, and it doesn't take as long, and you only need a few when you're cooking with them. Okay, so I've got these. I've got kind of a little bit of a dirt area here, but that's all right. We'll make sure it gets nice and cleaned up. So I'm going to take my whole cloves. I'm using a nice big knife with a nice flat surface here. So any butcher's knife will do. And I'm taking my clove, and I'm going to set my flat part on it, and I'm just going to smash. Okay? So there we go. Now I have smashed the clove. Now you might ask, well, why would you do that? That's silly. So I have a nice smashed clove here. See this? All right, so I'm gonna put my smashed clove onto my tray for freeze drying. Before I do that, I'll tell you why I smashed it. So just like with grapes or strawberries, you're gonna wanna cut your fruit before you freeze dry it. If there is a skin preventing that moisture from escaping the inside, like a grape or a strawberry has a skin on the exterior, you need to cut it and open up that fruit or vegetable so that the inside can be fully dried out. Otherwise, it may end up being mushy on the inside or not fully dried, which will affect your storage and your shelf life. So if you smash it and kind of open it up a little bit, that will provide a way for the air to get in there and fully dry it out completely. Another option, which you could do either way, is also just chopping it. Maybe you prefer this option. I read that it's probably not best to put it in a food processor because all the juices, you'll kind of lose the juices and the flavors. So you could also chop it kind of in a coarse way like this. Okay, so that's an option. Or you could do kind of a mincing fashion. So say if you have a nice big one like this and you want to kind of mince it a bit. I think all of these are good options for freeze drying. Even slices would probably work just fine. But say you wanted to mince it. So I'm gonna just kind of go over it a bunch. This might take a little bit longer, but I mean, also after you freeze dry it, in whatever fashion you choose to cut it, you can always throw it in a food processor then and blend it up to whatever coarseness you like. It could be into a powder, which is what I'm gonna try to do. So now I have a little finer chopping here. I'm gonna try blending some of this freeze-dried garlic into a powder and simply make my own fresh garlic powder because I use granulated garlic on everything I buy at Costco, but why not use my own, right? So that is gonna be my goal. I think smashing is what I'm gonna do for a bit, but I may go through and do some slicing. If it doesn't smash all the way, then I will slice it up. However it gets done, the goal is that it gets freeze dried. It doesn't have to be pretty. That's the nice thing about freeze drying. As long as it's opened up, it will get freeze dried and you're gonna get the same product kind of no matter what. Doing it consistently is probably a good idea. So if you decide to chop, you should probably chop it all. If you decide to smash, then smash it all. That way you'll get a nice even finished product, just like baking. You know, you want your cookies kind of all the same size. So that is what we're going to be doing. We will smash, cut, chop. I'm kind of just cutting these bigger pieces into smaller chunks. I usually just kind of figure this out as I go. So I'm hoping that with the garlic I have, I'll fill a couple trays, and whatever I have left to fill up, I am going to freeze dry some basil that I have in the freezer from last year's harvest. I blended up the basil with some oil and I have them frozen in little chunks, and I think I could freeze dry some of those. I'm also going to go pick some more green beans so I could freeze dry whatever more green beans are out in the garden right now. Oh, I'm going to cut off the ends. Another thing you can do sometimes, especially if you have little cloves like this, they're kind of a pain to get the paper off. You can't peel them. So with the paper on, that didn't work. It ended up in the living room. Try it again. With the paper on, give it a little smashing, and actually that'll help peel your paper. Thanks, Adam. That'll help peel your paper off easier. So if you're having a hard time peeling, just smash with paper on, and there you go, 2-in-1. You get the paper off and you get your smashed clove. I'm gonna put that on a different tray. So I'll have this tray will be kind of chopped, and this tray will be just slightly smashed open. So this one's nice and dirty, that's okay. I kind of sometimes cut off the end piece. It's kind of just where it was connected to its root. Sometimes I'll just cut that off, but whatever works for you. I don't think there's a really right or wrong way. As long as the skin of the garlic is being opened, that's the important piece. And you don't want the skin in your trays. You really don't want dirt in there either. So if you can help it, which mine are nice and dirty, but that's okay. Oops, they're very slippery. Slippery little suckers. Here we go. I am thinking after this entire box of garlic, smashing actually might hurt my hand, so I may come up with a different method. Some people do these fancy rollers where you have a roll, like, I don't know, it's some kind of a tubing, and you kind of put your garlic in there, and that's another way to get your garlic off. Whatever works. You know, if you're in the mood to smash, smash. If you're in the mood to roll, roll. If you just want to pick the paper off, whatever suits your fancy. But yeah, this is definitely the best garlic. These big hard neck. Soft neck I'm sure has its place, but for me, with 2 kids, I want the quickest, easiest way to get fresh garlic. And sometimes I don't use it. I just get the canned stuff or the stuff that's already smashed and peeled for me because it just takes so long. So something I'm discovering with processing food is the more I can do in a batch all at once, I'll chop all my vegetables and freeze them or freeze drying them. The more I can do in a batch, just get done, do it all at once. It's so much easier on my day-to-day when I go to start cooking something. If my vegetables are already chopped for me, it just makes my life easier. All right, so I got a little help from my daughter, which was amazing. So this went a little bit faster, but it took us, I don't know, 45 minutes to an hour. I don't know exactly what time we sat down to do these 2 trays of garlic. And our hands got super sticky. Smashing got old, so we did some amount of cutting, some amount of smashing. So we have these 2 trays of garlic, which is a lot of garlic processed, which will save us a lot of time in the long run. So this is what I'll put in the freezer. I often do pre-freeze my trays because I feel like it cuts the time that it's in the freeze dryer in half. And here in our city, they charge us 3 times the amount of electricity if you run anything electrical during certain periods of time during the day. So with this period of time, during this period of time, it's from 5 o'clock to 9 o'clock p.m. So you pay 3 times more for your electricity during that time. And since the harvest right is run on electricity, if I can run it during times that I don't have to pay that, then it saves us money. So all that to say is I'm gonna put it in the freezer, and then early in the morning I will get the freeze dryer going and I'll pop it in then. And then hopefully it'll be done before 5 to 9 o'clock. It may not be, but that'll be close. So we'll see how that goes. Sometimes I do it at night, like put it in right before bed, and it'll run through the night, which I could do that as well. So we're gonna put these in the freezer. All right, so here we are the next morning. We put our trays into the freezer. I've got some basil chunks from last year's harvest that I'm gonna freeze dry. And then here's our garlic, all nice and frozen up. And I'm actually gonna go get some mitts that I forgot because these are really cold. And then I'm gonna take these all downstairs. I got the freeze dryer going, and there's our green beans right there. So I'll get these out of here and down to the basement. All right, here we are in the basement. We're gonna get these trays in the oven or in the freeze dryer. So I turned it on in the back, and then I hit start. It takes about 15 minutes to get ready to go. And then it's telling me to load the trays and close the drain valve. So my drain valve's over here, and it's horizontal with the hose, so you just want it to go vertical opposite the hose, and that'll mean that it's closed. Tape's a little wonky over here. All right, so then I'm just gonna go ahead and load these in. I use an oven mitt because these are really cold after being in the freezer. So I'm gonna load these. This isn't a full tray, but I'm okay with that for now. My goal really is the garlic. This was kind of just because I had some extras that needed somewhere to go, but my main goal is testing the garlic. So I'm gonna give this hopefully about 12 hours. For some reason mine don't slide in very nice. I kind of have to pop them in the back. I'm not sure why. All right, so there we go. Got our 4 trays in. We have closed our drain valve, and we're just gonna hit continue. And it's gonna finish making sure they're all frozen. Usually this doesn't last too long, and then we'll go right into the drying. So we'll see how they do. All right, so this process finally completed. It definitely took longer than expected, but we got our trays out, and I think what happened is some of these bigger chunks, they just took longer. After the first cycle finished, we had some areas that were just kind of gooey in the middle, and so I put it in for a couple more hours, so it finished up and they look pretty good. But I think next time I may go a little smaller with my chunks, or maybe even just do the slices, because we had some inconsistencies here, and that's more just from just lack of experience and short on time. So now what I'm gonna do, I use these canning cones, which are really helpful when you're doing mason jars. I also use them for the Mylar bags, but for this, I'm just gonna be putting them into the mason jar. And then I think I'm gonna try putting an oxygen absorber just right into the mason jar this time. I'd like to save my Mylar bags for when I am planning to keep it for much longer term storage. This I'm hoping I'll use, I don't know, within a few months maybe. We'll see. I might end up grinding some of this up. But our Harvest Right, if you have one, you know this, they come with some of these oxygen absorbers, and then I bought some aftermarket ones. I can't remember where I picked those up. Might have been Costco. I resealed my bag, so I'll have to open that up. But I'm gonna grab one of these and stick it in there, and then I will just put the lid on, the mason jar lid on, and I'll store it in my pantry like that. So there I've got a whole ton of garlic that we grew from our garden.